This is going to be quite a long video, I know, because I just watched it back, about how to balance the Blackmagic pocket cameras, 4K, 6K, whatever you got, on a ZHIYUN Weebill 3S gimbal. For anyone who just wants to know the hack, you just mount it upside down. That is it. The camera is upside down using the 1/4-20 on top of the camera, and that means that this big old side handle just here is not on this side, which means you can slide it further over and actually get it to balance up. I will go through everything in excruciating detail. I know, I've just watched it back right now, but yeah, for anyone wanting the hack, just mount the camera upside down. That is how you can get it on without any extra weights, without any extra cages, rigging, buying more things. That is how you do it. So this video is maybe a little bit redundant now that Blackmagic have just announced a whole new slew of cameras. But for those of you that are still using the pocket cameras, it is going to take you through how you can actually balance up a pocket camera on a Weebill 3S from ZHIYUN. So ZHIYUN have been kind enough to send me this gimbal out to have a play with. This video isn't sponsored as such, but they did send me the product. I didn't pay for it, so take it with that pinch of salt. I'm going to be putting this to use on a number of shoots over the next couple of months, so do stay tuned to see how I actually use it and how well it performs for me. Today we're going to look at the challenges that you're going to have with this Blackmagic Pocket 4K on this gimbal, because well, the 4K as a camera is pretty wide and it's fairly heavy, but it's not heavier than the gimbal can take. So let's start to rig it up and see how it actually works on this gimbal. Move that off to the side there. To start with, we've got this base plate, and the way that you can tell which side of the base plate you should be putting towards the lens, it's got the ZHIYUN logo just there, and also it's got this mount at the front just here for the lens support, so you know that's the way it should go. The number of times that a base plate has gone onto a camera the wrong way around, you have to then de-rig everything. But yeah, I'm just going to screw this on. Get that cinched down. Okay, so now this is ready to go onto the gimbal. Now before we do this, you might look at this and say, well, Dale, you have probably set this gimbal up already to make it really quick and easy for you to balance. So what I'm going to do is just move all of the axes that I can completely out of whack so that nothing is pre-balanced, so to speak. Okay. And then we're going to have a go from the top. I want to be as honest as I can with this, so you get a realistic expectation of how hard it may be, or how easy it may be. Right, first issue, obviously, that camera can't go on because it is so wide, and I've got that skewed all the way over to the side just there. So I'm going to release this and then slide it out. So that's just using this to slide it to the side, and then I should be able to slide that camera on. There we go, and that clicks into place. And then if I lock that one off, I've got a reasonable amount of extra space on this side, so I can just slide it over, leave myself a millimeter or two so that I can still move it backwards and forwards. To this point, it's worth remembering, make sure your memory cards and your batteries, whatever else needs to go in there, is in there, because you won't have access to that side door at this point now, so yeah. Okay, so the camera is on the gimbal, and now we have to go through the process of balancing everything up. Well, there are some challenges. I'm going to go through it as if I was just trying to balance this, and then we'll get to the point where actually we find that this isn't going to work at all, and we have to do something different, but I'm going to go through it for the pantomime of doing it. So, first of all, front to back balance. I mean, if you look at it, it seems like it's balanced. The camera's not leaning that way or that way. But actually, it's just sitting too low. So this axis of rotation just here is unlocked. And if I place the camera there and I let go, I'm going to put my hand here because I know it's going to fall, it will fall down like that. And likewise, if I place it here, it will fall the other way. So we know that the camera and the weight just here is lower than this center of rotation. So therefore it is further this way and we need to move it back that way. So we undo this. Now when you're moving this around, there is a locking pin, so it's not going to slide off the bottom, but it can be a little bit difficult to move this with any finesse. So what I find is best to do is kind of this little squeezy motion where you place your thumb and your finger and then just sort of push and rotate in, and then you can move it a little bit at a time. Now I've gone too far that way, and I'm just going to nudge and nudge until it feels like it's balanced in this direction. Still falling that way. You can also support the camera on this side a little bit, which will make it easier to move. That feels pretty good. Remember, before you test it, lock that axis off, otherwise you're going to lose all of your progress. That's not too bad. Maybe we are a tiny, tiny bit back heavy at this point. Now we can go back to the base plate and we can just undo this lock just here. And then if we just nudge it ever so slightly forwards and lock it, then hopefully we can place it in any position and then carefully let go. Try not to impart any inertia to the camera when you do it, and it should balance no matter where you put it, and you should be able to smoothly move it and let go. There we go. So that is really nicely balanced. We've got the axes locked just there. So now what we're going to do is lock the tilt axis just here, and we're going to go onto the roll axis. Move this out of the way at the back just here. Now this is where things are going to get a little bit challenging, shall we say. I'm going to place my hand just here because I know what's going to happen. The camera falls that way. And this is because the camera has way more weight over this side because of this large kind of, we all know what the pocket camera looks like. We've got this really wide grip area which pushes the whole center of gravity off to the side, and there's nothing we can do about this. We can't move the camera further this way. So either we've got to lock that so I can let go of it. Either we've got to add some weight on this side, which I never like doing. I always prefer, if I can, to strip a gimbal down as much as physically possible, because you're going to have to carry that weight. And also, if you're doing anything where the gimbal is actually really having to work, then it'll work better if you're not putting excess weight on it. So it's just generally a better idea, in my experience, to try and accommodate things without adding extra weight. Although sometimes that is the only way, you know, just by adding a tiny bit of weight. So this is completely, you know, improvised. What I'm going to do is get a couple of these, I think they're Canon batteries, and I'm just going to balance them on top of the motor, he says, hopefully. No, that's not going to do it. A little bit more. God, it feels like Jenga. Oh, ever so close. Just need maybe a smidge. Ooh, I think there's a tiny bit more that we can have in this direction as well. Let's see if we can take that. Before anyone in the comments says, I'm not suggesting this is a viable solution. I'm just demonstrating the physics and proving the point more than anything here. There we go. So basically that amount of weight just there would fix it. You couldn't have it just there because that's on the motor, so you'd have to have it further this way, which would mean, physics, you would need a bit more weight. So the further you move the weight this way to counteract it, the more you're going to have to add in terms of weight. Obviously at a certain point you're going to cross that rotation point and you're actually going to be counterproductive. Adding the weight in as well, you have to consider where you're putting the weight, because that is going to affect all of the other elements of balancing this off. But without that, the camera is far too heavy on this side. So how do we fix it? Super simple. Basically, we have to take this camera off, and we will then find that on the pocket camera, you've got a lovely little 1/4-20 on the top just there. It's not ideal because it's kind of stands out as a little bit of a prominence, so you don't get the most grip, if you like, but it will work. So what we can do is just strip the base plate off, and we're going to mount the camera upside down. And by mounting it upside down, we're also going to flip it 180 degrees, and that's going to put the grip over this side, and it's going to mean that we actually have that ability to move over to the right that we didn't have before. Again, this isn't a perfect solution. There are so many reasons why you might not want to use it like this, because for a start, everything's upside down. All of your controls are now on the bottom. All of your menus, although I think maybe with all the firmware updates, the menus will rotate. I don't know if they rotate all the way around, but they certainly rotate for vertical. Be interesting to see. And if they do, then I think the camera recognizes that it's upside down and then automatically records that in the metadata. So when you bring it into Resolve, it should, it's worth a test. But yeah, if that doesn't work, then you can just obviously rotate it in post. That's not an issue. Okay, so now I can put this in. I can unlock this axis and try and balance it front to back just there. And that is falling a little bit weird, but that's probably because now the balance is all shifted because we've turned it upside down. So I probably need to adjust this axis as well. Let's see if I can do that. Yeah. So at the moment, this is falling backwards like this, which means the weight has to go that way. Just undo that and give it a little squidge this way, using that squeeze method that I talked about. Just squeeze like that, and a bit more, and a little bit more, tiny bit too much. This is always the most fun thing to do when you're on a shoot and you've had to break everything down to transport it, and then you have to get everything out, and you have to put the camera together, and you have to get all your cables out, and then you have to balance the gimbal in front of everyone under pressure. Okay, that is feeling pretty darn good. Now I may be giving an unrealistic expectation of how easy gimbals are to balance. I've done this an awful lot. I started off on like a glide cam, so yeah, I've balanced big gimbals, small gimbals, big cameras, small cameras, things on glide cams, gimbals on top of steady cams. So I have a pretty intuitive understanding now of what I need to do to get used to it. But it is just practice at the end of the day. The more you do it, the more you get used to it. Right, I'm going to unlock this axis at the back, and we're going to find it's going to fall that way. But now we've got this extra space. So if I unlock just here, I can slide and slide and slide until, a little bit too far there. I had it and then I let it go. Yeah, like that. And in theory, we can now take this and we can place it anywhere we want on that roll axis, and it will just stay there. Very nice. And on top of that, we should be able to actually place it on the roll axis and place it on the tilt axis and let go in absolutely any position you like, and it will make no difference to it at all. Now we do have one more axis to balance, and a lot of the time people sort of forget about this one. The pan axis just here does make a difference, and it, especially if you're not using the gimbal in just the upright position. If it's perfectly upright all the time, debatably it makes less of a difference. It's still better to balance it all off as much as you can. But as soon as you start to tilt the whole thing forwards or backwards or use it in an underslung mode, then having this balanced is absolutely imperative. It's imperative all the time, but super imperative. To balance this one often throws people off. We've unlocked the slider just there, and we're going to do the same thing, but it's harder to think about maybe. So what I'm going to do is place it on an angle and let go, and I'm seeing that it's falling in that direction. Now that means that we need to balance it back this way so that there's less weight forwards of the balance point just here. So I'm just going to pull it backwards, and I'm going to pull it backwards a lot, too far, so it falls back the other way. And you see that by having it too far this way, we get the opposite effect. So all we've got to do now is move it forwards until it doesn't fall, which may be about there actually. That was surprisingly fast. Okay, I've locked that so I can place it in different positions. I'd say that I'm getting a tiny bit of drift back maybe. Yeah, just a smidge, so I need to go forwards just that nudge more. Probably overdone it just there. How does that feel? How does that feel? Ooh, okay. Yes. Now, the acid test is to unlock all of your axes on the gimbal and then place it in some weird position on the side like this, and then move it. And obviously when you spin it around, it is gonna move, but you should be able to release it absolutely anywhere, in any position you want, and it will just stay there. So that is nice. And then we'll see that I can just flick this camera on, flick the gimbal on, and we have our perfectly balanced gimbal. Now you should go through the calibration process for the motors, but in my experience with the ZHIYUN, it's been perfectly happy with this payload, no issues whatsoever. I'm liking the handle just here. I've always had to, on DJI gimbals that I've had in the past, mod them out quite a lot. So this coming with the wrist rest just here and this underslung handle, which also, by the way, functions as a side handle. You just spin it out. You don't have to re-rig everything. You don't have to take things off and re-put them on. You can just quickly and easily adjust it on the fly, which, well, that's always a benefit. And then you've got two hands on it. Two hands, my preference. I way prefer having two hands like this, because it takes that rotation you're doing is from a very uncontrolled point. Having this hand just here and this hand just as support means that now I've got a much bigger circle. I've got more resolution in my movement, so I'm able to move with a lot more precision. Think about it like this. If you were driving a car and the steering wheel was this big and you're just trying to move and steer, it'd be really difficult. As it is, the steering wheel is this big, so you're able to very precisely control where you want the car to go, and you can do small movements without having to really think about it. You are, just through the physics of it, able to get more resolution in your turns by having a larger wheel. So the further your hands are away from that center of rotation, in my experience, the better your movements will be and the more precise you can be. Takes practice, same as anything, but definitely worth doing. Okay, so by putting it to the back and spinning this handle up, because you've got that option as well to make it longer, I can now place this down into sort of a suitcase mode like this and just have it hanging like that. I'd probably take the little tripod off the back if I was actually using this on a shoot, and then we can run around. Now, I use this a lot when I'm skating, and in fact, I'm going to be doing a few shoots in this orientation. While I'm skating, I like to be able to get down low with it. I like to be able to have it sort of skimming along the ground so you get that really intense sense of speed. So we can just take it and spin it around, because when I'm skating and I'm filming, I like to be able to go to, say, head height on someone. So from the underslung mode to being able to hold it just here with that second handle, just seconds. I don't have to re-rig anything. I don't have to add other bits on. I can quickly and easily move from one to the other. Very fun. Looking forward to having a play with it. If you've got any questions about balancing the gimbals or how you can rig out your camera to better make use of functionalities of the gimbal and, you know, lensing, all the rest of it, drop them down below. Happy to have the chat. And if anyone wants more detail on this as well, feel free to put that request down there, because it takes me just a few minutes to make a video about it. So if it's a request that a few people have, I'll probably do it. Thanks for watching.